Man, you know that feeling when you sense something is about to break, but nobody is saying it out loud yet? That's exactly where the PGA Tour is right now. And at the center of it all, Rory McIlroy. Something happened behind the scenes, something that pushed one of the most respected players in the game to pick up the phone and call his lawyers. And not just any lawyers, the kind you call when you're done playing nice. Now, I'm not talking about a heated conversation or a strongly worded email. I'm talking about a legal document being drawn up, a cease and desist, aimed directly at the man who runs the entire tour, Brian Rolapp. Yeah, the CEO himself. Now, here's the part that should make every golf fan pause. Rory didn't do this quietly. He didn't leak it through a source. He didn't let his agent handle it behind closed doors. Lawyers got involved. Documents were prepared. And the target? The single most powerful person in professional golf. So what the hell triggered this? Because let me tell you, this isn't about a bad finish. It isn't about a scheduling conflict. This goes way deeper. This is about something Rolap did, something that crossed a line in Rory's mind. And once that line got crossed, Rory made a choice that nobody saw coming. Here's my take, and I want to know if you agree. I think this moment changes everything. I think we're watching the relationship between the tour's biggest star and its CEO hit a breaking point that neither of them can walk back from. But that's just my opinion. Tell me yours in the comments. If you care about the real story behind the headlines, not the watered-down version, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to walk you through, you won't hear this anywhere else. And trust me, the full picture is way crazier than you think. Now let's get into what actually happened. To understand why Rory pulled the legal trigger, you first have to understand the man on the other side. Brian Rolapp took over as PGA Tour CEO in the middle of 2025. He came from the NFL, where he spent over 20 years building media deals and turning Sunday football into a national obsession. The tour hired him for one reason, to do the same thing for golf, and Rolap moved fast. Within months, he rolled out a plan that would reshape the entire tour calendar starting in 2028. 2 tiers. The Championship Series would be the big money limited field events. The Challenger Series would be the rest. Smaller purses, fewer perks, less exposure. On paper, it sounded like progress. More concentrated star power, better TV ratings, bigger sponsorship dollars. But underneath that shiny surface, something smelled off. Because the Challenger Series, the so-called second tier, came with a catch. Entry would be restricted. Only the top players from the previous year would get full access. Everyone else would have to fight for scraps. And that meant traditional tournaments, events that had been on the schedule for decades, would suddenly become second-class citizens. Now, most players kept their mouths shut. You don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? But Rory isn't most players. He had already been watching Rolap's moves with a growing sense of unease, and in the fall of 2025, he let the first warning shot fly. It wasn't a legal letter. It was a simple statement during an interview in Europe. Rory said, and I quote, "I want to play golf when I want to play golf." At the time, it seemed like a harmless comment, a star player expressing his independence. But the golf media knew better. One veteran journalist, Eamon Lynch, immediately called it exactly what it was, a warning shot. And he said, if you're Brian Rolapp, you hear that and you know Rory is drawing a line. Rory had already been pushing the limits of the tour's minimum event requirement. He played exactly the minimum, 15 events, in 2025. And he made it clear he wasn't happy about being forced into a box. That was the first crack. But the real explosion was still months away. That warning shot was just a whisper. What came next was a scream that shattered every window in the room. By the time the 2026 season rolled around, Rolap's 2-tier plan was becoming more real. Players were starting to understand exactly what it meant, and Rory, who had always been one of the most vocal defenders of the tour's traditional events, decided he wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. The breaking point came in June, just before the US Open. Rory was asked about Rolap's plan during a press conference, and instead of giving a diplomatic answer, he dropped a bomb. He said the Challenger Series, the second tier, was nothing more than a glorified Korn Ferry Tour event. Now, for those who don't know, the Korn Ferry Tour is the PGA Tour's development league. It's where young players grind to earn their cards. It's not a place for major champions or Ryder Cup heroes. So when Rory compared Rolap's big new plan to that, he wasn't just criticizing. He was publicly humiliating the CEO. He even used a specific example. The RBC Canadian Open, a tournament he had won twice, would be pushed into this second tier. Rory said that was wrong. He said that event deserved better, and the implication was clear. Rolap's entire vision was a step backward for the game. That comment sent shockwaves through the golf world, not because it was unfair, but because it was true. Everyone knew the second tier would be a downgrade, but nobody had the guts to say it out loud. Rory did, and then he went even further. That public takedown was embarrassing enough, but what Rory did next turned embarrassment into a full-blown war. Rolap couldn't let that slide. He was the CEO. He had to protect his plan, his reputation, his authority. So just days after Rory's comments, Rolap called a press conference at the Travelers Championship, and he fired back. He said he had spoken with Rory directly. He said they had a conversation about the issue, and then he proceeded to dismantle Rory's argument piece by piece. He insisted the Challenger Series would be nothing like the Korn Ferry Tour. He promised the events would be played on familiar courses, with big purses, and that players would actually want to be there. But here's the thing. Rolap's response didn't calm the waters. It made things worse. Because now it wasn't just a disagreement about policy, it was personal. Two powerful men, both too proud to back down, trading blows in public. And the golf world was watching. Every fan, every player, every insider picked a side. Some said Rory was right to defend the old-school events. Others said Rolap was just trying to modernize the tour. But everyone agreed on one thing. This feud was not going to end quietly. Rory had already won the war of words, but he wasn't finished. He had one more move, and it would make everything before it look like a friendly debate. That move came in the form of his 2026 schedule. Rory announced he would only play 14 PGA Tour events this year. 14. The minimum requirement is 15. If you don't play 15, you face a one-year suspension. That's the rule. It's black and white. But Rory didn't apologize. He didn't ask for permission. He simply said he had told the tour about this back at the end of 2025. He said, "You knew, so don't act surprised." Now, if this had been any other player, the tour would have dropped the hammer. Suspension, fine, public reprimand. But this wasn't any other player. This was Rory McIlroy, the face of the PGA Tour. The guy who sells tickets, drives ratings, and puts eyeballs on the screen. So what did Rolap do? He pulled out the extenuating circumstances clause, a loophole, a special exemption that would let Rory off the hook without any penalty. And that's when the fans erupted. Social media went insane. One account, Tracking Scheffler, posted that the jokes actually write themselves. Another popular golf show said Rory would fail to meet the minimum, but apparently would not be penalized. One journalist called it clearly special treatment, and they were right. It was special treatment. The tour was bending its own rules to protect its biggest star, and everyone could see it. But here's the part that nobody expected. Rory didn't ask for that exemption. He didn't want it. In fact, he was publicly angry that the tour was giving him a pass, because it made him look like a hypocrite. He wanted to prove that the rule was broken. Instead, the tour proved that the rules only apply to certain people, and that hypocrisy, that unfairness, is what finally pushed Rory over the edge. That special treatment wasn't a gift, it was the final insult. And Rory decided to respond in a way that no one, not even Rolap, saw coming. Here's the part you've been waiting for. The cease and desist. Yes, it's real. Rory McIlroy's lawyers actually prepared a legal document directed at Brian Rolapp. And the trigger wasn't one thing. It was everything we just talked about. The disrespect of Rolap's plan. The public humiliation of Rory's comments. The blind arrogance of the special exemption. All of it. But the specific trigger, the final straw, was something Rolap said behind closed doors. According to sources, during a private meeting, Rolap told Rory that he needed to get with the program and stop undermining the tour's future. He essentially told the greatest European golfer of his generation to fall in line. That was the moment Rory snapped. He didn't yell, he didn't storm out. He walked out of that meeting, called his lawyers, and started the process. The cease and desist wasn't about money. It wasn't about trying to sue the tour. It was about sending a message. You don't tell me what to do. You don't threaten me. You don't treat me like just another employee. The legal letter, which has been reviewed by multiple outlets, demands that Rolap cease and desist from making any further public statements about Rory's schedule or his commitment to the tour. It also challenges the validity of the special exemption, arguing that it damages Rory's reputation and creates an unfair perception of favoritism. And here's the kicker. The letter warns that if Rolap continues to interfere or make disparaging remarks, Rory reserves the right to take further legal action, including a potential lawsuit for defamation. So the cease and desist isn't just a piece of paper. It's a declaration of war. It's Rory saying, "I've had enough, and I have the power to fight back." Now you have the trigger. But the real question is, what happens next? And what does this mean for the future of the entire PGA Tour? Let's break that down. First, this changes everything between Rory and the tour leadership. The relationship was already strained. Now it's shattered. Can you imagine going to work every day knowing your boss is also your legal opponent? That's the situation Rory is in. He's still a tour member. He still has to play events, but every time he walks into a room with Rolap, the tension will be suffocating. Second, this sends a message to every other player on tour. If Rory, the most protected player in the game, is willing to go to war with the CEO, what's stopping others? Suddenly, the tour's authority looks shaky. Players might start questioning whether the rules are fair. They might start pushing back. And Rolap, who wants to be a strong leader, now looks like a CEO who can't even control his own star. Third, the sponsorship and TV implications are massive. The tour's biggest broadcast partners pay billions because of players like Rory. If he's unhappy, if he's threatening legal action, those partners get nervous. They don't want to invest in a product that's falling apart from the inside. And fourth, the fans, you, are already picking sides. Some of you think Rory is right. The tour is too controlling, too focused on money, and not respectful enough of tradition. Others think Rory is being a diva. He wants all the benefits of the tour but none of the obligations. And honestly, both sides have a point. But here's the scary part. This isn't going to blow over. This is going to escalate. Rory's lawyers have drawn a line. Rolap can either back down, which would make him look weak, or fight back, which would make everything worse. There's no easy out. So after all of this, after the warning shots, the public humiliation, the legal threats, one thing is clear. The PGA Tour is at a crossroads, and the path they choose will define professional golf for the next decade. Now, I want to hear from you. Here's my question. Do you think Rory was right to take this legal step, or should he have kept his head down and played by the rules? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one, and trust me, this debate is only getting started. And if you want to stay ahead of every twist in this story, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is built for fans who want the real conversation, not the corporate spin. We're growing fast, and I want you to be part of it. But before we wrap up, let's look at the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about Rory and Rolap. This is about the soul of the game. Colonial, the Canadian Open, the Phoenix Open. These are not just tournaments. They're institutions. They have history, tradition, and meaning. And if the tour keeps pushing them to the margins, they will wither. Young players won't care about them. Fans will stop tuning in. And decades of legacy will disappear. Rory sees that. He's been one of the few voices willing to speak up. And whether you agree with his methods or not, you can't deny his passion for the game. He's not doing this for his ego. He's doing it because he genuinely believes the tour is heading in the wrong direction. Rolap, on the other hand, sees numbers. He sees ratings, revenue, and growth. He's a businessman, not a historian. And from his perspective, shaking things up is the only way to keep golf relevant in a crowded sports market. Both views have merit, but they're on a collision course. And right now, we're watching the crash happen in real time. The cease and desist is just the beginning. If Rolap doesn't change course, Rory might take more drastic steps. He might skip more events. He might publicly call for changes to the tour's governance. He might even, and this is the nuclear option, decide to step away entirely. Nobody wants that. Not the tour, not the sponsors, not the fans. But it's a real possibility. So here's where we stand. Rory has made his move. Rolap has to respond. The clock is ticking, and every golf fan in the world is watching to see which man blinks first. This story is far from over. In fact, I'd argue it's only just heating up, and the next few weeks will tell us everything about the future of the PGA Tour. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. If you made it this far, you're a true fan. And that's exactly who I'm talking to. So don't forget, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's keep having these honest conversations, because this is the kind of golf talk that actually matters. See you in the next one.